and then I'll come to you. Okay, is that all right? Are you
Okay.
all right? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start now. All right. Hello, YouTube land. This is Brentonsawin coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. If anyone out there has a story of Bigfoot, Dog Man, or any other kind of cryptid creature, any interesting paranormal type supernatural story that you want to share on this show, you can email me at brentonsawin@gmail.com, and I'd be glad to talk with you in private, or if you want to come on the show, we'll do a pre-interview and get you on. Today we have someone from New York. His name is James, and he has a really interesting story that is very, very scary sounding. I can tell you that. And I just want people to know that these Bigfoot creatures are reported in every state but Hawaii, and it's quite fascinating that we have something that lives in the woods in almost every state that we have in our nation. But I'm not going to leave you hanging for any longer, and we're just going to go to James here and let him tell us about this encounter. Hello, James. How you doing, bud?
Hello, Brendon.
Oh man, your story is so fascinating, and my goodness, I can't wait for everybody to hear this. You know, it is the way that you tell it is like, my goodness, that had to have been so scary. But if you would kind of tell a little bit about where you live, when this, the year that this happened, and what the land is like, and kind of give us a setup on the scenario of how old you were, things like that.
Well, I was about 14 back in 1972. I live up in the mountains, kind of. This area doesn't have really big ones, but there's a lot of different, a lot of trees, and at that time, not many houses or lights, and it's the foothills of the Appalachians, kind of, and I was walking late at night when it happened. It was a very foggy night, so, and cool. Well, I ended up walking down the road. It was after midnight, and I stopped by the house to see a dog that wasn't on a chain when it usually is, and that I saw the chain wrapped around a porch, and it was not usually barking. So I walked up there to check it out, tiptoed up it's the short driveway, and the dog was shaking very badly, as if it was freezing cold, and it was only maybe 55 degrees. But I reached out to try to pet this dog. It's shaking even worse. And I just thought, wow, this is weird. I've never seen anything like this. Something's scaring this dog, and I don't know what it is. So I tiptoed back down the driveway, and I started walking toward home there, and there was a small light on a pole way down farther, and I saw this silhouette of a figure, and I didn't know what it was. It looked like a dog or wild coyote, or I don't know, fox or something, eating roadkill. And it was facing them towards my left. It didn't see me, and it was very dark woods on my right, so it didn't really. I was being quiet, so I walked closer a few steps, and I noticed it was bigger than that, and its head was moving up and down, and it was looking around, possibly at scavenging or looking for something to eat, or somebody's pet maybe, I don't know. But I took a few more steps to get closer to see what it was, and it kind of rose up a little, and it looked bigger, and I got a little scared, because I'm thinking this is a big dog, or I've never seen before, or something wild, and it's not something I want to be near, so I'm going to wait for it to leave. And I waited and waited and waited. When it didn't leave, I picked up a handful of stones and rocks, and I figured, well, if I'm a pretty good rock thrower, and usually a wild animal will take off and doesn't want to be around humans, so I'll just throw a few rocks, and the first one missed it, and I looked around, and the second one I threw landed near it, and it looked around more, and it didn't see me, and then the third bigger rock I threw it, I must have hit it because it stood up, and then I knew it was something not ordinary because it didn't look like a bear, but yet it was standing up, and my heart was really starting to race now.
And this was lit from behind because it was a light that was a pole that was shining a light from basically on the other side of it. And then you said something about the fog being really thick that night.
Yes, at times different patches of fog would blow in and out and ruin your visibility to chop it down from 100 feet to down to 50 or 10 feet. And it was unpredictable, and it was blowing around and floating and whatever. And that light on a utility pole was past this creature, so it was illuminating the backside of it, so all I saw was a black silhouetted figure. And so it started to walk towards me rapidly, and now I'm really getting worried, like, okay, now this has to be a bear or whatever. And at the time I didn't know that there could be said such Sasquatch Bigfoot creatures, being only 14. And anyway, I got about halfway. It was about 100 feet originally between us, and then I walked towards it little by little. Now there was only 75 feet between us, and it walked half the distance towards me in about 4 seconds. And then a big waft of fog blew in between us, and I thought, that was close. It probably went into the woods or took off, and then all of a sudden the fog blew by, and then it appeared 25 feet away from me, coming at me rapidly, walking. And that's when I thought, okay, this is it. I'm dead. There's no way out of this. It's going to kill me, and adios, world. And when I got within 10 feet of me, I was just my mind went totally blank. My heart was racing, and I couldn't think to save my life. No pun intended. And I was just so afraid that I just put my head down in submission and thought, okay, this is it. I'm dead, or do what you want to do, because I can't outrun this thing. It's so fast. Just walking, there's no sense in running because there's no way out of this. But I waited 20 or 30 seconds and nothing happened, and I thought, okay, maybe it left. So I opened my eyes slowly, and there I see its legs and feet. Gigantic, hairy legs and feet that are less than 2 feet away from my toes.
Oh my goodness!
And then I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I gotten myself into, and what's going to happen next?
Can you describe the feet and kind of just give us some description of what you were looking at? And
well, it's in a way I can't really give you a good accurate description. Not only was it long ago, but it's dark. And you've never heard of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like going back and saying, Captain Hindsight, I should have grabbed a hair sample.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just its feet were just gigantic on these thick trunk legs with lots of dark hair. And they weren't moving, and they looked real. This was not a suit. This was, I could see muscles and toes and toenails and whatever.
Wow.
Details, and I'm just like, what do I do now? It's not leaving, and I'm not think. So I'm like, well, there's only one way to. I got the gumption to look up at eye level, and I'm looking at its chest. like just below his nipple. So this thing must have been 7.5 feet tall, at least. It looked like, I mean, it's so solid and dense. I'm estimating 450 pounds at least.
Yeah.
You know, it would take 2 of your biggest football players of today and just tie them into a pretzel, you know?
Yeah.
But then I'm still, but I can't, if you look, you know, if you're like, I'm in my basement now, if you're looking at the ceiling, you can kind of see it, but you have to raise your head. That's how I could see the neck where it started. But I'm like, do I dare? And somehow I got the courage to tilt my head back and look at it in the eyes. And I had to tilt my head back a good amount. And I'm looking right in its eyes. And its eyes were, I could have reached out and touched. I could have reached out and poked him in the eyes. That's how close I was.
Yeah. Tell me how. Tell the audience how when you decided that you were going to look up at it, how you decided in your mind how you would make that contact with it.
Oh well, I just wanted to. It was looking for. I thought instinctively that it's not leaving, but yet it's staying, but it's not doing anything, and you know. Something has to happen for closure, so to speak. So I looked up at it sheepishly, as if to say, you know, sorry for throwing rocks at you. And then lowered my head back down. I looked in its eyes for probably maybe 10 seconds at the most. And its eyes were scanning me, and they were dark, black. You know, they had the regular white part of the eyes, but the eyes itself were black almost. And then I quickly lowered my head back down, as if to say, you know, that's the end of my. That's all I got to say, and I appreciate you for not killing me, but you know,
yeah.
What else can you do? You know,
Right.
And who knows? Maybe these things are telepathic, as if I've heard, but it's speculation. But so anyway, I just lowered my head and waited about another 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and then I heard it move off to my right. And like I said, in about 3 steps, it went over the ditch and then over the brush. And then the 3rd step, it was already in the woods and leaving. And then I just ran like the Dickens home to my tent in the backyard so fast that my legs were just moving like in a cartoon, and I was floating, and my heart was just thumping like rapidly, you know.
Right. So you were camping out that night, and you basically ran to your tent, and did you have someone there at the tent waiting?
Well, my younger brothers were already asleep, and it was after midnight. I was watching a movie at a friend's house up about a quarter mile or so away. I was the older brother, so anyway, I had privileges, but I got there, they were asleep already, and I told them in the morning, but they just snickered and dismissed my story.
Right.
And like I said, I've never heard of these things until a few years later and read about them in a Reader's Digest article.
Right. Now, when you looked at this thing, did it seem to have hair or fur on its body?
Well, it was kind of in between, I would say.
Right.
I mean, a cat, like a cat, you could say has hair, but it's also furry. Certain cats, you know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yeah. It wasn't
fur per se as thick, like a matted type fur, but.
Right.
I mean, the chest area and the face area looked more like dense hair, almost like fur, but it was short and very light colored.
Right.
Like a whitish gray, light gray, with the dark hair on its body was thicker and longer, and the tips were silvery, whitish. But it didn't look old, like you would think of. You know, the hair, the the density and the, it didn't look matted and dirty and scraggly. It looked, I'm guessing, but, maybe a adolescent or teenager. I don't know how old they live.
Right.
But this, it wasn't 9 or 10 or 11 feet tall, but it was 7 going on 8 feet tall.
Okay.
And huge, in girth.
In the face, did it have, what was the mouth really, really broad, or was it in the nose? Can you describe those from what you remember?
Oh, in fact, its mouth was very, like it almost didn't have lips. He left it closed. I couldn't see its teeth.
Right.
And it was very, like a slit. And its nose was small and somewhat broad, but not like a gorilla,
Okay.
But
so it was a hooded nose. Right. Okay. I think it's what's called a hooded nose. Okay. Now the forehead, did it have like the big brow ridge and the now viewing these from the front, when they have the cone or the conical or the sagittal crest, whatever they call them, different things, from the front, a lot of times you can't see that because it slopes.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right.
And like I said, I only being so afraid and not being just having very small amount of ambient light peeking through at various times from the stars or the moon when the fog wasn't around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could see, but you can't. Being so it's more like it's so long ago, and you were so afraid, and it happened so fast that you couldn't take mental pictures.
Well, and plus you were trying to be submissive and not look at it to engage. So
Right.
Yeah. Even if when you did look up, you probably were, I'm not really looking. I'm just, acknowledging you're here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, that's one of the times I really thought I was dead, and I'm surprised to be alive right now. Because
right. You had a very interesting theory about why that this thing would have not got aggressive with you. Can you tell us that?
Yeah. Well, for one thing, I was being with the whole submissive thing and not. I mean, throwing rocks probably wasn't a good idea, but I wasn't thinking ahead of time, so to speak. But what I thought about later was when you're hunting, fishing, or searching for, say, Bigfoot, like some people do nowadays, you're out in its territory in the deep woods away from civilization. So you're entering into its hunting grounds and territory, so it might be aggressive. But when it's in human territory, like I was in the country, but there's houses around and people, and so to speak, it's being nomadic and searching for food in human territories. So it's not in its own territory. So it might respect humans and try to stay away and not be aggressive and not let on that it's here, kind of thing.
Right.
Be more secretive and stealthy.
And I really thought that was interesting when you said that too, because if you go into their territory, one of the things they do to try to get you to leave is throw rocks at it. So here this thing comes into your territory and you throw rocks at it. It's kind of like, okay,
I never heard of that till the last some of them shows, and I'm like, wow, I must have,
right.
I must have impressed them.
Yeah.
Good thing I didn't throw any really big rocks at it, because then I might have crossed the line.
Right. Do you think maybe that it didn't know that you were a human because you had dark clothes on and it was the 70s and you said you had long hair and
Yeah, I had long hair down to my shoulders, and it was dark brown, and I had dark clothes on. And when it first, and it being it, there was not much light, and it was dark, and it came at me. It probably didn't know what I was until it got, close enough. And when the fog blew by and it was 25 feet away coming at me, it probably didn't know. It was like, I got to check out what this thing is throwing rocks at me. It might be another one might be my brother or cousin or,
Right.
And here's this human with long, dark hair with its head down and dark clothes. It might have, until it was too late, it walked right up to me and said, he's checking me out,
Yeah.
Because when I looked it in the eyes, its eyes were scanning me left to right. I could see his eyeballs moving up and down, left to right, scanning me.
Just studying.
It did not flinch, though. I couldn't believe how still this thing stood.
Wow.
I mean, you know what I mean? It was
yeah.
A human, it switches or moves a little bit, and this thing was just like statuesque still.
Huh. That's interesting, actually. That's one of the ways that they avoid detection, because the eye notices things that move, and they can be very, very still, can't they? I mean, it's incredible.
That's one of the things that amazed me. How I was trying to detect arm movements or leg movements or just any twitch of the nose or the neck or anything, and it did not.
Right. So I was. Go ahead. Pardon.
Well, I was scanning it when it was scanning me, for a brief 10, 12 seconds, whatever. So that's when I noticed that and thought about it later.
Yeah. So sometimes when people have these encounters and they are rocking back and forth, I believe that is to try and get your attention to look, and it's a hey, I'm here kind of thing. Because when they want to not be detected, they stand perfectly still by a tree. A lot of times they blend into the background so well that if they stay still, people will walk right by them and actually be very close. So, did you?
I believe it.
Yeah. Did you get any type of smell? Did you notice any smell or anything?
No, I've talked to a few people that, say, hey, they're supposed to smell like, rotted garbage or skunks, and I'm like, well, I've heard of that in the South, but where it's hot and muggy all the time. But this wasn't, it was a cool middle of the June in upper New York State night, and the wind was a crosswind. It was actually coming from my left and going to my right. And, I don't, I mean, not to be funny, but, who knows, maybe a lot of these smells that are smelling is he just got done eating recently and he farted,
Yeah.
That could happen too.
So, some people think that they put that smell off as a defense, or when they're upset or something like that. So, I mean, who knows, But it could be he wasn't upset. Right.
He was curious, or
now when you seen him in the road, did you ever figure out what he was doing in the road, squatted down like that? Or?
No, like I said originally, I thought it was a large dog eating roadkill or something like that. The way the movements and were happening, and but it actually he was doing like a push up, but down his body was just off the ground or the road, and his head was near the ditch, and there was a row of small fir trees there, but the neighbor's property that I knew had just put in a small barn with chickens and rabbits that year, and I remember the son who goes to my school saying something's breaking into their barn and getting the chickens and rabbits. So now I'm thinking that was what it was doing, and it was looking for movement, and it probably knew it because those people had 2 or 3 dogs that were mean, so they'd take them in at night, but it was probably checking to see if their dogs were out or checking the humans were out or whatever, and it was probably thinking about doing just that and breaking in that barn.
So he was basically stalking and being stealth, approaching that property then, maybe.
Yeah, he was in that position as I described, and he was not looking. He was so focused looking that way, which was to my left, that he wouldn't. And I say he because I'm assuming it's a he, because I didn't see breasts and there was too much hair to really see any genitalia in that direction, focused in that direction. So he wasn't looking to his left, which I would have been to his left.
Right. Okay.
And even when I threw a rock, when you're in the woods, or it's even when it's quiet, he might have heard where it might have came from, but he looked around and he didn't see me for some reason.
Right.
Before the fog came, and I could see him, and I just threw a rock at him, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but he that's what I think he was going for, was an easy kill. I think he was going after livestock, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because they tend to get down on their bellies and do, you know, kind of belly crawl up to make their profile low. I mean, they're such big creatures, they have to do that in certain situations, you know, to not be so visible. Sneaking up on dogs is not easy. Yeah. Wow. That's quite incredible. It's amazing, you know, where he was so focused, you basically kind of come up on him while he was in the middle of doing his thing there, huh?
Yeah, because usually you hear the stories where they sneak up on a human and are stealthy and hidden and secretive and unseen, and this was the opposite, and it was all by accident.
Yeah. Well, since then, did you sleep in the tent that night?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I did.
Was you concerned?
Well, I mean, at first, I was, you know, at first, but then, you know, I kind of went into my mind that, you know, it revolved in my mind like, you know, if it was going to do anything, it would have done it at that time. It would, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he wouldn't come
And I was thinking of waking my brother, originally waking my brothers up and telling them beware, so to speak, but
yeah, I mean, I get that. If he was standing right there and if he was going to do anything, that would have been the time. And if he walked off,
and of course, this is 1972. Like I said, I'd never heard of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, so you don't know what to think. You know, you know, we don't. Now that we know what we know now, you know,
right?
We don't have the time machine to
yeah. So what did you think that it was after you saw it?
I had no idea. All I could say when I told my brother was that there was this big hairy man beast that was huge, that I thought was going to kill me, that you know, scared the bejesus out of me, and I'm here to tell about it. And you know,
do you think that people nowadays, it's easier to tell because it's kind of a widespread known, at least the topic is known?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I still get, you know, once in a while it happens. You still get people that are aware of it and they believe it's a possibility, but there's so many hoaxers out there and liars that you say something, they would laugh just to say like you're making it up, or you're looking for attention, or like that. But I'm not. I'm dirt poor. I'm living in my mother's. Okay, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, people are seeking attention. I just can't imagine seeking attention in that kind of way. And so I guess do you have any concerns about going out into their areas now and camping? Seeing that he was on human territory, do you have any kind of qualms about going into the woods and camping out in their territory?
I guess you could say that there's not, but I mean, even now, because of population and regulation and all this, there's not many places you could go close to where I live that you would be in its territory where there isn't a house within a half a mile, or you'd be trespassing, or you'd be in,
Yeah.
You might be somewhere where you don't want to be if you don't know the area, but I know what you mean. Yes, I would say it has crossed my mind. I do, in fact, though, I do go out, and just for the fun of it, to, make calls and see if I get a response, kind of thing. Go in the woods about 300 yards.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten one?
No, not. Well, I invented this one call where I inhale, so it sounds evil, kind of like. And I did one of those, and I got all the coyotes to sound off. And then I waited 15 minutes, and I did a high-pitched one, that exhaling or whatever. And then I heard a growl less than 100 yards away from me, so it was probably a bear. And I didn't have a flashlight with me because sometimes I do that. I have this thing where, you know how people say to conquer your fears, if you're afraid of water, to go swimming. If you're afraid of heights, to go out of a plane. Well, I conquer my primitive fear. Everybody has that basic primitive fear. Just go out in the woods at night without a flashlight.
My goodness. You're brave.
Well, I don't go too far, and I don't stay too long,
Right.
And I know the area. Yeah, I wouldn't go out in the area I don't know, but.
Yeah. So basically,
but you got to carry a big stick or something, some kind of weapon with you too,
Yeah. So, but to go out into a deep wood somewhere where there's Sasquatch reported on a regular basis or something, would you be concerned about going into their territory, knowing that? And
it depends. I mean, if I was alone and I didn't have weapons, or I might be more afraid of bears or rabid foxes, or
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Being alone, that's when you have things happen to you, or you go out in the woods alone. It's a lot different than having people with you.
Yeah.
But yes, in a lot of circumstances, I guess I'd say yes, I would be afraid.
Yeah.
Just for the fact of, But then again, I haven't heard many stories, and I don't know, you hear some of the older ones of it where people were attacked or disappeared, or maybe abducted or kidnapped or whatever.
Yeah. I think most of the stories where people get attacked probably don't get told because they don't survive.
Yeah. Or they go missing, yes. Yeah. Or if the police or rangers know something, they won't share it.
Right, yeah. Because there are a lot of people that go missing in the national forest and things like that. So.
Oh yeah. I heard about that.
Yeah. So it's an interesting topic, and anyway, so what advice would you give to someone if they had a close encounter with Bigfoot, if they want to live? What would be your advice to them?
I would say remain calm, like in any dangerous situation, and don't go in one direction too far and freak out and run and be totally afraid, but don't go in totally the opposite direction and get mad or use a weapon or angry. I would just remain calm and just try to communicate with it, maybe, or just observe it. And I don't know. That's about all I can think of.
And I think that if it approaches you, be submissive. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Don't push your chest out or raise your head up too high. Don't get into an intimidating or aggressive stance. And
right. Yeah, because I really think that you did the proper thing in the situation you were in, and that was very wise. You were definitely a smart kid, and for sure. So anyway, James, I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Brendon. I loved watch your channel and hear your other stories too.
All right, I think people really enjoy this one. It was quite fascinating to have one to look and see feet right there. Oh my goodness, that's got to be just so terrifying. And the fog blow in, and then all of a sudden you can't see it. That would, to me, that not being able to see where it's at, that just be very scary. And then bam, it's right there, and you're looking at feet. Oh my goodness, that's you did the right thing. You did. Yeah. You were submissive, and that was wise. So.
Yeah, it's one of those instances you can't reproduce in the laboratory.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and you got my emails and number and stuff like that. So, anytime you hear of anything else or just want to holler at me, shoot me an email, and I can call you or what have you. And thank you very much, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing with everybody.
All right, thank you, Brendon. Have a good evening.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, YouTube land. That was quite interesting encounter for sure. Man, that'd be scary stuff to look, have your eyes closed, your head down, and look, and all of a sudden there's feet right there. My goodness, that's scary stuff. But I think he did the right thing by playing the submissive thing, and large predator type animals, that's the thing you should do. So if you're going to have an inevitable encounter, that would certainly be a thing to do. So thank you all for watching. If anyone has a story out there they want to share, Bigfoot, Dogman, any kind of cryptid, supernatural, anything that's interesting, shoot me an email at brentonsawin@gmail.com. And thank you for watching. God bless, and bye-bye.